My brothers and my sisters, we are living in a time where storms don't just rage outside, they rage within. The lightning doesn't just strike from the sky, it strikes in our minds. The thunder we hear isn't always in the heavens. Sometimes it's the anxiety, the fear, the pressure pounding in our thoughts. But hear me when I say this. If you don't train your mind to be still, the world will train it to panic. You can't afford to let every text, every trial, every trigger set you off. You got to learn to command the chaos. You got to learn to speak peace to your own soul. You got to learn how to say, though the storm rages, I will not be moved. Because peace, real peace, is not the absence of trouble, it's the presence of discipline. It's a trained mind, it's a renewed mind, it's a calm mind. So tonight, today, this moment, we're not just going to talk about calmness, we're going to learn to train for it. We're going into the mental gym of the spirit. Because a calm mind is a powerful mind. And a powerful mind is a dangerous weapon in the hand of a peaceful warrior. Get ready, because we're about to take authority over anxiety. We're about to rebuke panic. And we're going to train our minds to stand still in the middle of the storm. ChatGPT said, stillness is a strategy, not a weakness. Calm is a trained response, not a natural reaction. That idea alone can shift your entire life if you let it. We live in a world that constantly pushes us to react. From the moment we wake up, notifications are screaming for our attention. People are pulling on our time. Expectations are pounding at the door. And the noise of the world never stops. And in that environment, many believe that reacting quickly, emotionally, or even aggressively is a sign of strength. But the truth is, real strength is not in how fast you can respond. It's in how well you can pause. It's in the space between the stimulus and your response. That sacred space, that moment of stillness, is where your power truly lies. Stillness is not being passive. It's not weakness. It's not doing nothing. No. It's doing something intentionally. It's choosing to stand still when every part of your flesh wants to fight, flee, or panic. It's choosing to breathe when your anxiety is screaming. It's refusing to be pulled into the storm when the winds of fear are howling. Stillness is a spiritual discipline. It is a decision, a daily training, a preparation before the battle ever begins. Calm does not happen on accident. You don't just stumble into peace. You train for it. You develop it. You grow into it. Just like muscles don't develop without consistent training. A calm mind doesn't emerge without persistent effort. The calm you see in others who handle life with grace, it wasn't given to them freely. It was forged in the fire of pain, refined in the furnace of delay, tested through rejection, and sharpened through seasons where they had no choice but to stand still or fall apart. You see the fruit, but you don't know the fight. People who walk in calm have paid the price of practice. They've learned how to override the panic. They've taught their soul how to return to peace. It's not that they don't feel the pressure, they've just learned not to bow to it. When the disciples were in the boat and the storm rose up, the natural reaction was to panic. The winds were real, the waves were high, the water was entering the boat. Their minds were trained for survival, not stillness. And yet, when they turned to Jesus, he was asleep. In the storm, asleep. Why? Because his mind was trained in peace. His spirit was rooted. His identity was secure. He knew who he was, where he came from, and what his purpose was. The storm outside didn't get to shake the stillness within. And that's what training your mind to be calm really means. It means your peace is no longer negotiable. It means the world doesn't get to touch the place where your soul rests. A response looks like this. Life throws something unexpected at you, a betrayal, a delay, a closed door. And instead of spiraling into anxiety or lashing out in frustration, you stop, you observe, you breathe. You remember what you've trained your mind to believe, that this moment is not the end, that nothing surprises God, that every trial is a teacher, and every delay is divine if you stay in faith. Calmness gives you clarity. It allows you to hear what others miss. It keeps you from burning bridges or making decisions you'll regret. It guards your spirit and sharpens your wisdom. But it starts before the storm. That's where most people miss it. They wait until they're in chaos to start thinking about peace. But peace is a habit. It's built in the quiet. It's formed in your morning routine. It's protected in your prayer time. It's sharpened every time you choose not to react to nonsense. Every time you don't let that coworker's attitude move you. Every time you refuse to clap back at a negative comment online. Every time you put your phone down and return to your breath, your center, your source. That's the training. That's the gym. Calm is built before the storm ever shows up. Because here's the truth. The storms will come. The pressure will rise. The attacks will hit. You can't control that. But you can control your response. And when you've trained for calm, when your mind is rooted and your spirit is anchored, you become a fortress, a rock, a steady hand in a shaking world. That's what this generation needs. Not more noise, not more panic, not more shouting. We need people whose peace confuses the storm. We need leaders who are unmoved, parents who are present, believers who are unshaken. That kind of calm isn't born, it's built. So if you want that peace, you have to train. You have to decide every day, I will not let the world train me to panic. I will not let my trauma define my temperament. I will not let my feelings dictate my future. I will breathe, I will pause, I will stand, and when I stand, I will not be shaken. Because my calm is not weakness. My stillness is not surrender. My silence is not retreat. It is strategy. It is strength. It is power under control. It is faith in action. And it is the proof that I have been trained. Your mind must be anchored before the storm hits, not during it. That's the principle many people don't learn until it's too late. They wait until life is falling apart to try to find peace. They wait until life is crashing over them to look for stillness. They wait until the storm is already screaming before they try to hear the voice of God. But if the anchor is not in place, before the winds start blowing, the ship will drift. It's not about reacting in the storm. It's about preparing before the storm ever shows up. You don't wait until you're in the middle of chaos to get clarity. You train your mind ahead of time to know where to run, what to believe, and how to stand. Because when pressure rises, the mind doesn't reach for what is logical, it reaches for what is familiar. If what's familiar to you is worry, panic, fear, anger, or confusion, then that's where your mind will go when the wind starts to blow. But if you have rehearsed peace, if you've meditated on truth, if you've fed your mind with faith and trained your thoughts in discipline, then your anchor is already planted deep in the waters. The storm may shake you, but it won't break you, because you were ready. We anchor ourselves with intentional practice, not wishful thinking. People think they'll just rise to the occasion when hard times come. But in reality, we don't rise to the occasion. We fall to the level of our preparation. That's why your morning matters. That's why your inner life matters. You can't spend your days filling your spirit with junk, chaos, fear, and noise and expect to have peace when life shakes you. Peace is a result of planting. It grows where it has been watered. If you haven't been planting peace in your spirit, how can you expect it to bloom in your crisis? The problem is, most people are reactive, not proactive. They get shaken, then start looking for stillness. They get betrayed, then start searching for healing. They get anxious, then start Googling scriptures. But what if we flipped the pattern? What if we learned to build our peace before it was tested? What if we learned to fix our focus before it was challenged? What if we learned to anchor our minds so deeply that no storm, no news headline, no toxic relationship, no financial stress could knock us off course? If we learned to fix our focus before it was tested, what if we learned to fix our focus before it was tested? What if we learned to fix our focus before it was tested? What if we learned to fix our focus? When you train your mind before the storm, you develop an instinct for calm. That means when someone tries to provoke you, your mind doesn't snap. It stays still. When a door closes unexpectedly, your soul doesn't spiral, it steadies. When fear whispers lies, your thoughts don't run with it. They rise above it. But that doesn't come from chance. It comes from choice. You have to choose what anchors you. You have to choose what you rehearse. You have to choose what voices you let in. Because every voice has a direction. Every thought has a current. If you let your mind drift without purpose, it will always end up in panic. Anchoring your mind is about deciding ahead of time what your truth is. It means making peace a priority before pressure makes it urgent. It means setting your intentions before life sets your reactions. When you wake up in the morning, you decide, I will live from peace today. I will not let the noise dictate my mood. I will not let the pressure bend my mind. I will keep my thoughts rooted in the truth of who I am and whose I am. Because if I don't anchor now, I'll drift later. And drifting always leads to damage. Let's be honest. Storms come for us all. Nobody escapes them. The difference isn't who has storms. 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 One person loses their job and falls apart. Another finds purpose in the middle of the same loss. One person faces heartbreak and becomes bitter. Another uses the pain to grow deeper. What's the difference? It's not the situation, it's the anchor. What held their mind when everything around them started to shake? What truth did they cling to when lies tried to take over? What peace had they built before the pain? You cannot build an anchor in the storm. You must build it before. And that means taking responsibility for your mental state. It means you can't blame life for your lack of peace if you've been feeding your fear more than your faith. It means you can't expect strength in the fight if you've skipped the training. Your mind is a battlefield. You must decide every day which side you're feeding. You must decide every day what kind of person you're becoming when no one is watching. That's when the anchor is formed. That's when peace is planted. That's when your calm becomes unshakable. Not in the spotlight, but in the secret place. When your mind is anchored, your emotions follow your convictions, not your circumstances. That means even if life gets messy, you stay grounded. Even if people disappoint you, you remain centered. Even if everything around you says, because the storm is not your anchor, the opinion of others is not your anchor, the balance in your account is not your anchor, the timeline of your dreams is not your anchor. The anchor is truth. The anchor is presence. The anchor is the decision you made before the waves came. So don't wait for life to go crazy to build your calm. Don't wait for your thoughts to spin out before you start speaking truth. Anchor your mind today, right now. Plant peace. Rehearse stillness. Choose what centers you. Because when the storm does come, and it will, your peace will already be in place. And a mind that is anchored before the storm is a life that is unshakable in it. Peace is not passive. It's a mental discipline practiced daily in silence and surrender. That's the kind of truth that doesn't just sound poetic. It confronts the way we live. Most people treat peace like it's some fragile thing that just floats down from heaven when life is good, the sun is shining, and nobody's bothering them. But real peace has nothing to do with your situation being quiet. Real peace has everything to do with you being quiet on the inside, even when everything around you is loud. Peace doesn't show up when life finally calms down. That's not peace. That's just the absence of problems. But true peace shows up in the middle of pressure, in the middle of conflict, in the middle of loss. That kind of peace doesn't come from the outside. It's created on the inside. And it's created through intentional, disciplined surrender. You don't just stumble into peace. You don't get it by accident. You build it daily, moment by moment, thought by thought. It starts in silence. That's where most people get uncomfortable, because silence forces us to sit with ourselves. And when we're not used to sitting with ourselves, the silence feels overwhelming. But silence is where peace is formed. It's in the stillness where your thoughts start to surface. It's in the quiet where you finally hear what's been buried underneath your busyness. And that's why we avoid silence, because it exposes what's unsettled. But peace doesn't come by avoiding the inner noise. It comes by facing it, working through it, and learning how to release it. Practicing peace means making space for stillness, even if your schedule is full. It means choosing moments in your day to unplug, to disconnect, to pause, because your mind is constantly being bombarded with alerts, with demands, with problems that aren't even yours. And if you never intentionally pull away from the noise becomes your normal. Then you wonder why you're anxious, overwhelmed, or exhausted. You weren't made to live with your mind spinning 24/7. You were made to return to breath, to silence, to surrender. Surrender is the other side of this practice. That's the part people don't talk about as much, but it's crucial. Because peace isn't just found in meditation or quiet. It's found in the act of letting go. You can sit in silence and still be in turmoil if your soul is holding on to everything it was meant to release. That's why surrender matters. You can't carry everything and expect to feel light. You can't control everyone and expect to feel calm. You can't hold the weight of the world and expect your spirit not to break. Peace is found when you surrender the need to fix everything. It's found when you release the illusion that you're in control of outcomes. It's found when you trust that what you can't manage, God can. That what you can't predict, He already saw. That what you can't carry, He never asked you to. Surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is strength wrapped in humility. It's knowing your limits and trusting a power beyond yourself. But surrender doesn't just happen once. It's not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. You don't just give your fears to God one day and expect them never to return. They creep back in. Doubts whisper again. Worry knocks at your door every morning. That's why surrender has to be continual. Every day, you wake up and say, I choose peace over panic. I choose trust over control. I choose surrender over striving. And when those thoughts try to rise again, you surrender them again. This is the work of peace. And yes, it's work. It's not lazy. It's not passive. It takes effort to pull your mind back when it wanders. It takes strength to stay silent when you want to control. But the reward is freedom. The reward is clarity. The reward is the ability to walk through fire and not be consumed. Because your peace wasn't tied to your comfort. It was rooted in your discipline. Some people think calm people are born that way, but more often than not, they're not. They've been trained. They've practiced silence. They've built surrender into their routine. They've fought for peace because they know the cost of living without it. They've had their minds spiral into places that almost broke them. They've seen what happens when the inner world isn't tended to. So now they guard it. They protect it. They value it. If you want peace, you have to start practicing it. Not when everything is easy, but especially when everything is not. Practice it in traffic. Practice it in conversations that test your patience. Practice it when your plans fall through. Practice it when people disappoint you. Peace is not a luxury you experience only on vacation. It's a mindset you develop in the middle of daily life. It's not for the perfect moment. It's for the present moment. Messy, unpredictable, imperfect, and yet sacred. Because it's where God meets you. Peace is not passive. It is power under control. It is a warrior's strength cloaked in stillness. It is a mind that has been tamed, not by force, but by faith. And when you learn to live like that, when you train your mind to return to silence, when you choose surrender over stress, you don't just feel better. You become unshakable. Because now, peace is no longer something you wait for. It's something you carry. The loudest voice in your life should be the one you've trained to speak truth, not fear. That's a foundational principle for a mind that wants to live in peace and purpose. We all have voices in our head. Internal conversations, thoughts, ideas, memories, warnings, doubts. And every one of them is trying to guide our next move. But not every voice deserves the microphone, and certainly not every voice is rooted in truth. The question is, which voice have you trained to lead? Which one have you allowed to become the loudest? Because the loudest voice always wins the battle for your attention and eventually your direction. Fear is loud. It doesn't whisper. It shouts. It tells you you're not enough. It tells you you'll fail. It tells you they'll lead. It tells you it's too late. And the more you listen to fear, the more control it takes. Fear thrives in repetition. It grows by gaining your agreement. It starts as a suggestion, then becomes a narrative, and if you let it, it becomes a belief. Before long, you're not even questioning it. You're obeying it. You're moving according to fear's instructions. You're avoiding people. You're shrinking your dreams. You're playing small. Not because that's who you are, but because fear got the mic and you never took it back. That's why the voice of truth has to be trained. It doesn't come naturally. Truth often speaks quietly at first. It doesn't force itself. It waits to be chosen. But once you train your mind to recognize it, to choose it, to feed it, that voice becomes powerful. It becomes your anchor. It reminds you of who you are when life tries to redefine you. It tells you to rise when pain tries to pull you down. It tells you to move forward when fear says stay stuck, but it has to be trained over time through practice, intention, and repetition. Training the voice of truth means feeding it daily. You can't speak truth from a place that's starved. You've got to fill your mind with the right words. Read them, say them, write them, speak them aloud over your life. Replace lies with declarations. Replace fear with faith. Replace old scripts with new truth. If fear says you always mess things up, truth says I am growing, learning, and equipped. If fear says nobody wants you, truth says I am loved, chosen, and worthy. You don't silence fear by ignoring it. You silence it by outspeaking it. You train your mind to override it. This is where inner discipline becomes vital, because you don't get to control what thoughts show up, but you do get to control which ones stay. Thoughts will rise, some from past pain, some from trauma, some from insecurity, some even from spiritual attack. But not every thought deserves your agreement. You can't always stop the knock at the door, but you can choose not to let it in. When fear knocks, you train your mind to answer with truth. Not emotion, not imagination, not assumption, but truth. That's the voice you elevate. That's the voice you rehearse. There's power in repetition. That's how fear grows, but that's also how faith grows. The more you repeat truth, the more natural it becomes. The more you declare what's real, the more it drowns out what's false. And soon, you start hearing that voice in the critical moments. When you're about to make a big decision, truth speaks first. When your feelings are overwhelming, truth stabilizes you. When someone rejects you, that's not just a random occurrence. That's the result of training. That's the result of choosing day after day to amplify truth. And here's what happens when truth becomes the loudest voice. Your life changes. Your reactions change. Your confidence rises. You start stepping into rooms you used to avoid. You start taking risks you once ran from. You start waiting for the world to validate you and start walking like someone who's already been called. Stop spiraling every time something goes wrong and start anchoring yourself in what's unchanging. You stop reacting emotionally to every attack and start responding wisely with clarity and calm. Because now, you're not being led by fear, you're being led by truth. This matters especially in your quiet moments. Those times when nobody is around and it's just you and your thoughts. That's where the real battle happens. That's where the enemy tries to creep in. That's where fear says you're not really healed, or you're not really strong, or you're going to fall again. But when you've trained the voice of truth, you know how to respond. You remind yourself, I've been through worse, and I'm still standing. You tell yourself, God didn't bring me this far to leave me now. You look at your history and declare, I've already seen what he can do, and I won't doubt him now. Don't underestimate the voice you're practicing. Your inner dialogue is either building you or breaking you. It's either pushing you toward destiny or pulling you into defeat. Every time you agree with fear, you give it authority. Every time you declare truth, you take it back. And over time, that consistent discipline becomes a force, a mental muscle, a spiritual reflex. You no longer default to fear. You default to faith. You default to wisdom. You default to peace. Not because life is easy, but because your mind is trained. So ask yourself, what voice has been the loudest in your life lately? And more importantly, which voice are you feeding? Because you are not just the product of your experiences, you are the product of the voice you've chosen to follow. If you want to shift your life, start by shifting your agreement. Silence the lies. Speak the truth. And train that voice until it roars louder than anything fear ever said. When you train your mind to be calm, you are not simply avoiding chaos, you are mastering the ability to remain steady regardless of what surrounds you. Calmness is not the absence of storms, but the presence of a centered soul amidst the storms. Life will always present challenges, unexpected twists, disappointments, and pressures that can shake the very foundation of your peace. But the strength of your calm is measured by your ability to maintain your balance even when the winds howl and the waves rise. Training your mind to be calm is a deliberate, ongoing process, a commitment to developing inner strength that refuses to be hijacked by external turmoil. Calmness begins with awareness. You must first become aware of the triggers, the situations, people, or thoughts that disturb your peace. Without this awareness, your mind is like a ship drifting aimlessly in rough seas, tossed about by every wave of emotion or distraction. When you identify your triggers, you gain the power to respond instead of react. You learn to observe your rising tension before it turns into panic or anger. This is the first step in mastering calmness. Recognizing the moments when your mind begins to spiral and choosing to step back rather than dive deeper. Once you have awareness, the next step is to cultivate control over your responses. This does not mean suppressing your emotions or pretending everything is fine when it's not. Instead, it means training yourself to respond thoughtfully and intentionally rather than impulsively. Your mind is powerful, but it can be led astray by fear, frustration, and anxiety if you let it run wild. To train your mind to be calm, you must learn to pause, to take a breath and create a space between stimulus and response. In that space lies your power. When you pause, you gain the ability to choose your next step, to decide how you want to show up, rather than simply reacting on autopilot. This process requires discipline. Calmness does not come naturally to everyone, especially in a world that glorifies busyness and noise. At best, this process requires discipline. Calmness does not come naturally to everyone, especially in a world that glorifies busyness and noise. It's easy to get caught up in the chaos of daily life. Deadlines, conflicts, unexpected problems, each demanding immediate attention and emotional energy. But to maintain calm, you must intentionally carve out moments for stillness. This might be as simple as a few deep breaths during a stressful moment, a quiet walk, or a brief pause to reflect before responding to a difficult conversation. These small practices, repeated consistently, build the muscle of calmness. Over time, they rewire your brain to find peace, even when pressure mounts. Another vital part of training your mind to be calm is mastering your thoughts. Your mind is like a garden. What you plant, you grow. If you plant seeds of worry, negativity, or fear, those will take root and overwhelm your peace. But if you choose to plant seeds of faith, hope, and confidence, you cultivate a mental landscape that supports calmness. This means being deliberate about what you focus on. It means filtering out the noise of negativity and choosing thoughts that empower rather than debilitate. When fear whispers, your trained mind answers with truth. When doubt creeps in, your calm mind reminds you of your strength and resilience. Thought control is not about ignoring reality. It's about choosing the lens through which you view reality. Importantly, training your mind to be calm involves surrender. This is often the most challenging aspect because it requires humility, the willingness to let go of control. Life is unpredictable, and no matter how much you prepare, some things will be beyond your influence. Calmness is rooted in the acceptance of this truth. It's about trusting that you don't have to have all the answers or fix every problem immediately. You can surrender the outcome, knowing that peace is not dependent on perfect circumstances. This surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the burden of carrying everything alone and embracing a deeper source of strength. Faith often becomes the foundation for this surrender. When your mind is trained to be calm, it rests in the confidence that there is a purpose beyond the present struggle, that you are not alone in your battles, and that resilience is built through reliance on something greater than yourself. This faith fuels patience and perseverance. It quiets the racing mind and anchors you in hope. Whether it's faith in God, the universe, or the natural order of life, surrender opens the door for peace to settle in your heart. It's also essential to surround yourself with reminders of calmness. The environment you create influences your mental state. If you fill your space with chaos, constant noise, clutter, negative influences, your mind will struggle to find calm. But if you cultivate an environment that encourages peace, through calming music, inspiring books, positive people, and restful spaces, you support your mind's training. Visual and sensory cues act like anchors that bring you back to a place of calm when stress threatens to pull you under. The journey to a calm mind is not about perfection. There will be days when you lose your balance, when frustration or anxiety creep in, when the noise feels too loud, But training your mind to be calm means showing up again and again, ready to practice awareness, pause, thought control, and surrender. It means being patient with yourself and recognizing that calmness is a skill, not a destination. Every moment you choose peace over panic, every breath you take to steady yourself, is a victory in building a mind that remains calm in every situation. When you achieve this level of calmness, your life transforms. You respond to challenges with clarity instead of confusion. You navigate conflicts with grace instead of anger. You approach setbacks with resilience instead of despair. Your calm mind becomes a beacon, not only guiding your own path, but also influencing those around you. People are drawn to your steadiness, your ability to hold peace in the middle of chaos. You become a source of strength, not just for yourself, but for your family, your community, your workplace. Ultimately, training your mind to be calm in every situation is an act of empowerment. It's choosing to take back control from the noise, the fear, the pressure. It's deciding that no matter what storms come your way, your inner world will remain a sanctuary. This calmness is not passive resignation, it's active mastery. It's a daily commitment to live intentionally, to cultivate peace as a non-negotiable part of your life, and to face every situation with a mind trained to remain unshaken. As we come to the close of this journey together, remember this: training your mind to be calm in every situation is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong commitment. Life will continue to bring storms, challenges, and moments that test your strength. But when you cultivate awareness, discipline, and the courage to surrender control, you build an unshakable peace that no external circumstance can steal. Your calm mind becomes your greatest weapon, your refuge, and your power. So I challenge you today to choose peace over panic, truth over fear, and stillness over chaos. Train your mind daily, for in that training lies freedom. Step forward into your life, not as a victim of circumstances, but as a master of your inner world. Stand firm, breathe deep, and walk boldly. Because when your mind is calm, no storm can break you.